the Community Relations Council as well as Heritage Lottery and the Nerve Centre as practitioners in Derry, Londonderry do a huge amount of work around here. I think it's very important that we continue to support that work. What we're doing today is commemorating in a much more inclusive way than maybe people did 50 years ago, and in doing that we're going to contribute to an ongoing progress of inclusive, good, positive commemoration of what are really very critical events in our history.
I think what we're hoping for at the end of the 5 years that our grant programme runs is that each community has had a chance to explore their First World War stories, the impact that it had on their communities, the impact that the whole decade had on their communities, and then bringing those stories collectively to look at Northern Ireland's First World War story. It's very much about, the sum of the parts, that it's not just each individual project, but it's about pulling those together and seeing, a true reflection of what happened during the First World War, both at home and abroad.
I would really hope that in a way it challenges some of the stereotypes and some of the beliefs that people have around things like the Easter Rising or the Battle of the Somme, which aren't actually true when you look at them closely.
So over the last number of years, whether it was a plantation event or now looking more particularly at, say, the Ulster Covenant, we did an event in 2012 to mark that, and we also have done events and exhibitions around leading into the First World War and trying to sort of start that conversation going in terms of what we can do to tell more, particularly younger audiences, about the past, because my main role within the museum service is learning, so I'm really keen to find ways of engaging younger people, so maybe using drama, using sort of ideas like the horrible histories approach to try and make it a wee bit more engaging and fun to some extent, but also hopefully educational. I think a lot of work has been done, not just within the museum service in the city, but also in a broader context with groups as well. And I think there's a great appetite, I feel, within the city.
This day's been very good, actually, just attending the workshops and things. I was in the Ethical and Shared Remembering, and it was really, really beneficial. And I would have done a bit of work with Maureen, but I think it is important that we start looking at how we can view things differently. I think this type of work will have an impact, but it's going to be a slow burn. I don't think we've reached anywhere near where we need to reach. I don't think we've got to the point where, yes, people might learn another story or listen to it, but I don't think they could jointly commemorate it yet. For us, although it's about celebrating the various centenaries, there's a huge educational element which all those organisations need to support.
The Six Connacht Rangers Research Group was born of cross-community activities we were involved in, and we went out to Belgium and France, and then the Loyalist group would go to Dublin, and that was black and white as that. But when we came back, we discovered, I said that my grandfather had been a Connacht Ranger, and several other members of our group said their grandfather had been Connacht Rangers. So we put a letter in the Irish News and asked for other people who had connections with the Connacht Rangers, and we got a massive response. And then through research we discovered that the 6th Battalion Connacht Rangers was almost entirely made up of Irish volunteers from West Belfast. The cross-community anti-sectarian element that we concentrate on, and our motto would be commemoration without glorification. A newer understanding of the decade of remembrance, we intend to carry on with when the volunteers returned, the Connacht Rangers returned, what involvement they had in the War of Independence and then the Civil War, and some of them joined the IRA, some joined the Free State Army. A lot of them didn't take any part, but it's all this. We're all descendants of Connacht Rangers, so it's our families and how the events afterwards affected them. The Civil War had a bigger effect on my family than the First World War or the War of Independence. We depend entirely on the CRC for publishing our book and things like that. And we'll be lost without groups like that.
Everyone remembers history in a different way. The world was a different place 100 years ago. So fundamentally, it should just bring everyone together and remembering each individual's view and respecting that. as a young person, you'd like to see that people do engage more. There is more integration, not just in schools, but in communities, which has got to be the main thing for an all-round of the future.
One of the things we really welcome is when we've worked with a group where we've been, if you like, the project lead, and we've mentored them, facilitated them through that process of looking at their histories. When they actually start to turn around and say, right, we're going to do a project ourselves, we may still be involved in just an advisory capacity. And so they're the ones who have actually built their confidence, they've got their skills, they've got their area of interest, and they move on and they come to funders and they put their application together. As I say, we may then work with them as advisors, or not in some cases. We're just there, we get invited to their project finale and things, but that's really rewarding for us, that we're actually acting as a stimulus, and I think that's where, with the funders' help, we've actually been doing really some exciting projects.
Well, you get more synergy out of an event like this when you have partnerships. For example, we're in partnership, that is the Community Relations Council, in partnership with the Early Lottery Fund, Prony, the Nerve Centre, Dimension 3, Decal's involved as well. So with those partnerships and the approaches that we take, we can get our message out to a lot of people and get our message out more strongly. It's vital that the Community Relations Council is involved in how commemoration is commemorated, what's the objects, because if it's not communicated correctly or not commemorated correctly, it could put us back years.
Well, this today presents a great opportunity for the Junction, because we are leading up a project called Ethical and Shared Remembering, and that's about commemoration in a new context, remembering a decade of change and violence, 1912 to 1922. So today offers us the opportunity to present the training programme and the courses that we're running about these big centennial events, and an ethical framework in which we might remember them together, but also with an ethical framework that needs to be looked at in order for us to think of a different future. This type of event is really important because you engage a much wider range of society than we would normally maybe capture in the field of peace building. It brings historians, it brings philosophers, it brings theologians, it brings community groups, it brings historical groupings together to share what it is that they're doing in their own local communities. And then the sharing and the exchange of information, we get a much wider understanding of what that decade meant and the impact of it both today and in the future, and also the transgenerational legacy that if we do this decade badly, if we remember badly or negatively, or if it's only about reenactment, then we can leave a legacy for our children in the future which is very negative. And so I've been picking that up today, and that's been a really strong point. What is the future that we want for our children? And again, some of the amazing resources that are here, we have the opportunity to take them, share them and learn from them as well, and that makes us bigger than ourselves and makes our project even more creative, and we reach a wider audience as a result of that.
For singing, we were all to sing. If a girl was dismissed, we would put on our shawls and march out, and that's what we did.
There's so many ways of addressing peace building. It can't be just conversations in a room about how we might build peace. It has, it's horses for courses. You have to have so many different approaches, and so many people have so much to contribute in so many different ways. It's acknowledging their input, it's acknowledging the work that they do at the grassroots, and then it's acknowledging the fact that we all have a responsibility to build a shared future and to build peace and to develop community relations. And no better place for people to exchange information, to share what it is that they're doing, to learn from each other, and also to realise that we're all in this together. If we want a better future, we all are in this together to build that future and take responsibility for it. You see the collaborative partnership that's happening with the Community Relations Council, the Heritage Lottery Fund and others like it. They set the model. And they give permission for other organisations to think collaborative working is effective, it's value for money, and it's also the best way to move forward, because sometimes at the community level we work in our own little sectors and we work in our own little circles, and it is about widening out what it is that we know and sharing.
We're now facing really the challenges of the Easter Rising, the Battle of the Somme, and beyond that, partition, the rise of Sinn Féin, and the bloody sectarian conflict that marked Ireland north and south at the time of the setting up of two Irish states. So in many ways, this conference is about bringing together educators, academics, librarians, museum people, community leaders, people involved in community relations, really, in considering how they're going to approach the challenges of the second half of this eventful decade, there are elements of dynamite in dealing with Irish history, especially when you want to broaden it out and give people a broader, a more balanced, a more objective approach. And I think that's what we're trying to inject here. I think civic society, I think museums, community relations people have a duty of care, to add a corrective to how maybe people who have their particular heroes commemorate the past and movements and individuals of the past. We're trying to broaden it out. And I think, in many ways, that's reflected in so many ways. The impact of the 1916 Rising, in many ways, many of its origins were in the north.
Prony's got a considerable number of interests in the decade. First of all, Prony actually emerged out of the decade of Centenaries in 1923 when the two states of Ireland were created. And Prony was formed and established in 1923, following on from the events that preceded it. And secondly, over the years since then, we've collected a wealth of material relating to that decade. In fact, it's an area of particular great research strength. So we're particularly strong on the First World War, of which we're thoroughly immersed in at the moment, for the Ulster response to an all-Ireland state, to partition itself, and to the establishment of both states, north and south.
It was very, very interesting, and it's lovely that I think we're taking the effort to personalise the stories about people from the World War. Like the History Club up there, having the photographs of young men from that time, it makes it very real. I think we hear far too much about the general what happened in the war, and it's lovely that we're all here together and learning about personal stories.
I think that the sharing together of common stories from whatever perspective is so valuable. People are very sincere, they're very open, and they're looking to the future of a shared way of getting rid of the past, in a sense, and looking to the future in a positive and helpful manner.
Really has broadened my all sorts of knowledge about all sorts of things, wouldn't you agree? And we had a terrific conversation with these people here, looking into the past, and family members that were just myths in our family. Now we found out that they're actually practically, they are true.
The workshops are fantastic, just to get a flavour of what's happening. We've met some really good people through them. I would have liked a wee bit more time to chat, but you can see that it's just a kind of quick overview today and networking and see what else is going on.